so the bar exam is 3 months away.
Do you feel nervous about the bar?
Yeah, I'm not ready yet.
I am feeling a little bit overwhelmed.
What?
Someone from prison was like, this person put a hit out on your life.
What if the most dangerous man in hip-hop isn't just a convicted mogul, but someone accused of ordering the most shocking act imaginable? The internet erupted this week after Ye claimed that Sean Diddy Combs was the main customer behind a plot to silence Kim Kardashian permanently. At first, it sounded like another wild Ye rant until we looked at the timing. Diddy was only just sentenced in October 2025 to 4 years and 2 months in federal custody after a sprawling trial on charges that included transporting women across state lines for illegal purposes, racketeering conspiracy, and violent assault. His team called the process a media circus, but the damage was already done. 2 mansions raided by federal agents, a parade of witnesses describing so-called freak-off parties, and a once untouchable empire collapsing in real time. When Ye pointed his finger this week, he was not shouting into a vacuum. He was pointing at a man already surrounded by indictments, betrayal, and secrets.
It looks like Kim Kardashian is using her reality show to make, I mean, I hate to say it because I love Kim and I hope she passes the bar, but I think she's using the show to make excuses ahead of time in case she flunks.
The accusation landed just as Kim's own words from her family's show began echoing online. In the trailer for Season 7 of The Kardashians, released barely a month after Diddy's sentencing, Kim is seen breaking down on camera. Through tears, she says, "Someone extremely close to me put a hit out on my life." Viewers saw the flashing red and blue lights, the blurred images of patrol cars, the disbelief on her sisters' faces. She added, "I'm scared out of my mind." That single line changed everything. We can confirm that filming took place in recent months, the same window when Diddy's Los Angeles and Miami homes were searched by federal agents. Within days of those raids, Kim quietly unfollowed Diddy on social media, ending years of friendly appearances at his parties and brand events. Insiders noticed. A source close to her security detail told Radar that Kim's life now looks like a Secret Service operation, with guards stationed at her home, her offices, and her children's schools. That level of protection goes beyond celebrity anxiety. We've seen Kim live through real trauma before, her 2016 Paris robbery, a case so violent she told a French court she absolutely thought she would be executed. But this new fear feels different. She told producers that the threat came from someone very close. Not an obsessed fan, not a random intruder, someone inside her orbit. And when Ye re-entered the picture, hinting that Diddy was the one pulling strings, the puzzle pieces began to align for a public already suspicious of what went on behind the velvet ropes of Diddy's infamous gatherings.
Same kind of extortion that we heard when Cassie took the stand and testified on that airplane ride back from France. Diddy said, "You don't do a freak off, I'm going to release one of the freak off videos that you are profiled in and humiliate you."
Back in the 2010s, Kim and her sisters were fixtures at those events. Khloe once bragged on camera about Diddy's naked parties featuring top artists and Hollywood elites. Now, that same network of insiders is the backdrop of federal indictments that read like crime fiction. Prosecutors described hidden cameras, coercion, and intimidation. Diddy denies every charge, but the court of public opinion has turned against him. For Kim, whose brand depends on control and image, the decision to distance herself came quietly but decisively. She deleted old posts with him, stopped liking his updates, and told friends she didn't want to be anywhere near that mess. Then came the investigator's call that allegedly confirmed her worst nightmare, that the threat to her life might be linked to someone she once called a friend.
So he put his hands on females, put his hands on producers, executives. That's just his. I guess that's what the whole name Bad Boy comes from. That people don't really understand. What is it? What is a bad boy? Why did he choose that name? Like he never really gave a clear definition of how he feels about that name. Not yet.
As Kim reinforced her walls, a new contradiction surfaced. Ray J, her ex and longtime critic, appeared on a live stream insisting that the Kardashians themselves were worse than Diddy and even under federal investigation. Days later, he was hit with a defamation lawsuit from Kim and Kris Jenner. But the statement had already circulated to millions. Ray J's words stung not only because of their venom, but because of his proximity. He's been inside the family's world. He knows the mechanics of their empire, and his willingness to name Diddy in the same breath made the story explode. The lawsuit, filed in September, accuses him of fabricating a federal RICO case against them. Yet, in the court of gossip, his claims sounded less like fantasy and more like payback. Meanwhile, Kim's health became part of the narrative. In the same season trailer, she revealed a diagnosis of a small brain aneurysm, which doctors linked to stress. She blamed it on years of pressure, her divorce, and the non-stop public battles with Ye. But followers online started connecting dots. Was the stress only from her divorce, or was it the weight of something more dangerous, a hidden secret from those years at Diddy's mansion events? It's impossible to verify, yet the timing remains uncanny. A federal case against Diddy, a renewed media spotlight on Kim's safety, and a medical scare that forced her to slow down just as investigators reportedly reached out. We've learned from multiple industry sources that Kim's security expansion began not after the Paris heist, but in early 2025, following a call from a private investigator hired to vet potential threats. That call, dramatized in the trailer, apparently detailed an alleged plan to harm her. Exact words later echoed by the network's own publicity materials. Since then, Kim's daily movements are controlled with military precision. Delivery staff are screened, vehicles mirrored, and every new hire signs multi-layer NDA agreements. The family hasn't commented publicly, but those who visited her Hidden Hills property describe a presence that feels less like celebrity excess and more like witness protection. The unanswered question remains, what does Kim know that makes her this afraid? She has faced stalkers, robbery, and the world's most scrutinized divorce. None of that required armed guards at her children's classrooms. We can't ignore that she and her sisters once publicly celebrated their friendship with Diddy, the very man now accused of running an underground network that spanned coast to coast. Sources familiar with the raids tell us that investigators seized encrypted drives allegedly containing footage from his private events. Some of those events, they say, included household names. If Kim ever attended even one of those nights, and if she witnessed anything that could corroborate federal claims, she might hold testimony powerful enough to end careers. And that would give someone a motive.
When it came to the other defense attorneys speaking, Brian Steele was just very urging of the judge to please consider that Sean Combs had untreated trauma throughout his life. Brian Steele urged the judge to consider that Sean Combs had untreated trauma in his life, and that there have been times in Sean Combs' life, especially when he had in his system, that there were times where he had flatlined.
West's own role in this story has been easy to dismiss as the rantings of a man on the edge. Yet when we look back, his warnings track a disturbing pattern. In February 2022, he posted in all caps that Kim had accused him of putting a hit out on her. At the time, it sounded absurd, but in hindsight, it reads like foreshadowing. Years later, she is the one confessing that a close associate tried to harm her, and Ye is the one shouting that the true threat came from Diddy. We know he's lost Adil's friends and his reputation, but perhaps that isolation has freed him to say what others won't. Behind the noise, one thing is certain: the triangle linking Kim, Ye, and Diddy isn't about gossip anymore. It's a convergence of power, secrets, and fear. Kim's silence has become its own statement, a refusal to engage, even as speculation grows louder. Her legal war with Ray J, her health scare, her fortified lifestyle, all point to a woman protecting more than just her image. And as Ye continues to insist that Diddy wants her gone, we can't help but wonder what exactly she saw inside those mansions, what she might have confided to him during their marriage, and how far someone would go to keep it from surfacing. Because Kim's life isn't just in danger because of what happened in Paris. It's in danger because of what she saw at Diddy's parties and who might be paying to keep it buried. Kim Kardashian's 2016 Paris robbery wasn't just a crime. It was a message. We remember the headlines: $10 million in jewels stolen, a diamond ring ripped from her finger, her wrists bound with zip ties as masked men shouted and ransacked her hotel suite. She begged for her life. "I have babies, I have to make it home," she told them through tears, and one of the robbers whispered the chilling words, "Shh, and you will be okay." For years, we believed the story ended there. But what if the masked men were only the surface? What if that night wasn't about jewels or celebrity wealth at all, but about leverage? Because around that same time, the very circles Kim moved in were intertwined with Diddy's empire, and Diddy's empire was built on secrets. We now know those freak-off parties weren't urban legends. Federal prosecutors laid them out in graphic court filings. Recordings, witnesses, a pattern of coercion hidden behind luxury and fame. Khloe once bragged about a 2014 weekend where half the people there were naked, with Justin Bieber barely out of his teens among the guests. Back then, it sounded like bragging rights from the height of the Hollywood party era. Now, it reads like evidence. These weren't private nights of indulgence. They were documented, they were filmed, and those tapes, insiders claim, are still circulating within Diddy's seized hard drives. If Kim ever attended, she would have seen things no one was supposed to see, and that could explain why someone might want her silenced.
There is a partial verdict in the Diddy case. After 2 days, the jury has reached unanimous decisions on 4 of the 5 counts.
The problem is that 5th count means that we don't get to find out what the verdicts are on the other 4 because they are hung up on.
When Diddy's homes were raided in March 2025, federal agents confiscated laptops, security systems, and external drives. Sources close to the investigation say some footage included recognizable figures from television and politics. That single line, buried in an indictment summary, sent shivers through the entertainment world. It reframed every past connection, every red carpet photo, every glamorous collaboration. Kim's name, although never mentioned in court documents, suddenly carried a new shadow. Her decision to unfollow Diddy just before those raids no longer looks coincidental. It looks like self-preservation.
So maybe the judge is going to give him more than time served.
But we should say that the maximum he could get is 20 years.
And that's what I want to get into for a minute. Because this is some racist you-know-what, this Mann Act.
And then came the sentence, 50 months behind bars. Not for the full list of alleged offenses, but for transportation charges under the Mann Act. The jury had rejected certain counts, yet the judge still cited elements of the human trafficking and racketeering case when determining punishment. Even Diddy's lawyer called it un-American. We have to ask, if the courts couldn't silence him completely, who could? Who might step in to contain the fallout when those deeper layers of his network risk exposure? The idea that Kim's voice, one woman's testimony, could shift that balance suddenly doesn't sound so far-fetched. Meanwhile, West's world has been imploding in public. He owes Kim $200,000 every month in child support, an arrangement that sounds routine until we consider what it symbolizes. Control, leverage, money moving quietly from one empire to another. Add to that his controversial Yeezy adult venture, his ex-assistant's harassment lawsuit, and the constant string of legal distractions. These stories, scattered across tabloids, seem disconnected. But when we zoom out, we can see a shared pattern. Powerful men collapsing under the weight of what they tried to hide. And Kim, standing at the intersection of their chaos, knows more than either of them want revealed.
He was responsible for Diddy's day-to-day life, so he is able to provide a lot of information about what that life was like. He goes into detail on extensive use.
Insiders close to Diddy's legal team whisper that one of his biggest fears during discovery was a witness linked to a major television family. No name was printed, but we can guess which one fits. Kim's attorney has refused all questions on whether she's been subpoenaed or approached by investigators. That silence is telling, because silence has become Kim's armor. Every security guard, every locked-down location, every NDA she enforces, it all builds a wall between her and whatever truth is waiting to surface. Even her health struggles fit too neatly into the timeline to ignore. In 2024, she revealed she'd been diagnosed with a brain aneurysm. On the show, she called it stress. Doctors traced it to emotional strain, but fans online weren't buying it. They pointed out that the news broke weeks after Diddy's indictment, right as prosecutors hinted more names could be involved. Could stress alone cause such a rupture? Or was the stress about what she couldn't say? The more we trace her behavior, the upgraded security, the secrecy around her kids' school routes, her sudden withdrawal from certain charity events, the clearer it becomes that she's living in constant defense mode. We also can't forget that Diddy's parties weren't isolated indulgences. They were ecosystems. Money flowed through fashion brands, film deals, record labels, and luxury sponsorships. Everyone who attended gained access, favors, introductions. And someone like Kim, who was transitioning from reality star to billionaire entrepreneur, would have been at the epicenter of that web. She didn't just party there, she networked there, she built alliances there, which makes her potential knowledge infinitely more dangerous. Racketeering means organized coordination, and coordination leaves trails. Every witness who can confirm that coordination becomes a liability. Even the Paris robbery gains new meaning when seen through this lens. Imagine being part of a world where everyone records everything, where hidden cameras capture power brokers at their weakest moments, and then suddenly you're robbed in a foreign country by men dressed as police officers. Too many coincidences. The men were called the Grandpa Gang, yet they somehow executed a precision operation inside a secured hotel without harming her. She was terrified, but left alive. What if that night was designed not to harm her, but to remind her of her vulnerability? To show her how easily access can become exposure.
So, Terrence Howard appeared on the PBD podcast with Patrick Bet-David, and the episode, this premiered on April 4th, definitely making the rounds because in this episode, Terrence Howard describes an interaction with Diddy where he says that he believes that Diddy was trying to have with him. Let's take a listen.
West's rants start sounding different when filtered through this possibility. He's the only one who's publicly accused Diddy of orchestrating harm toward Kim. He's the one who, despite his chaos, keeps circling back to the same names, the same accusations. Perhaps he's been dismissed not because he's wrong, but because he's inconvenient. We've seen him lose brands, partnerships, friends. He has nothing left to protect, which makes him dangerous to those who still have everything to lose. There's another subtle clue: Kim's continued advocacy for justice reform. On paper, it's her passion project. But some insiders whisper that her involvement in prison cases gives her direct insight into federal procedures, knowledge that could help her navigate her own risks. One former associate even described her as obsessive about surveillance and evidence law. If that's true, maybe she's not just surviving, maybe she's preparing.
He is a serial woman abuser, the likes of which we haven't seen in modern America, at least not on the public stage in this way. He is a repeated serial abuser. He beat those women to a pulp and didn't even deny it. He didn't deny it. They admitted expressly domestic abuse over and over and over again, something the judge used against them when they pled for bail.
And yet, even with all that preparation, the stakes have never been higher. Diddy may be behind bars, but his network isn't gone. There are still managers, financiers, and enablers, people who owe him silence, people who benefit from his downfall staying limited. Kim's absence from his world doesn't erase the years of proximity. If she ever decides to talk, the ripple effect could sink reputations across entertainment, business, and politics. That kind of power comes with a price. So, here we are. Kim's unfollowed Diddy, fortified her world, and chosen silence over confrontation. But in a culture where convictions fade, where cameras become blackmail, and where truth itself is a bargaining chip, we have to ask, how long can silence keep her safe? How long before the walls she built to protect her start closing in? Because if what Ye claims is even half true, Kim Kardashian's life isn't just haunted by the memory of that Paris night. It's hanging in the balance between two men who know exactly what she saw and exactly what it's worth. What do we think? Has Kim been protecting herself or protecting the industry that made her? Are we witnessing a cover-up or the quiet survival of the most famous woman in the world? Let us know what you believe in the comments below. And remember, some stories don't end when the headlines fade. They just wait for the next to knock on the door. Stay curious, stay alert, and until next time, keep watching.